I always have this fear that I will I will become redundant for the role I am doing if I am not a continuous student and I'm not a continuous learner, right? So you can sit many times when people become senior, they assume that they know everything, and I think that's a very dangerous thing. So I think that curiosity and this quest for knowledge and the quest for continuing to learn, having the humility to go and sit with a 21-year-old young graduate and say, tell me a bit more about how AI works, has to be there in a senior leader, right? And I think that has helped me quite a lot.
Marhaba, I'm Janan Farhat.
And I'm Derek Zeno from the Al Qasimi Foundation.
Welcome to C-Suite Talks, a podcast about what it really means to lead.
We're talking to the people behind the titles to hear their stories, lessons, and a few surprises along the way.
Because leadership is more than just the corner office. It's personal.
Our guest for today is Raheel Ahmed, the CEO of Rakbank, one of the UAE's longest-standing financial institutions. Good morning, Raheel. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Just for our listeners, let's start off with a quick background. Since taking the helm of Rakbank in January 2022, you've applied more than 30 years of banking expertise spanning Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe to steer the institution's next chapter. For our listeners who may not be aware, Rakbank was founded in 1976 and is a public joint stock company and market leader whose total assets increased by approximately 19% to over 88 billion dirhams in 2024. In 2025, under your leadership, Raheel, Rakbank reported to have tripled its profits in 3 years, crossing 2 billion dirhams in profit before tax for the first time in its history. It also remains the UAE's leading SME bank, supporting close to 92,000 businesses across the country through its 20 branches. From everything we know, it's safe to say that Rakbank has become one of the most dynamic players in the UAE's evolving financial landscape. So Raheel, just to get us started, we've seen how AI is reshaping everything from digital wallets to open banking. Can you tell me a little bit about how AI is transforming the way you work?
Sure. So listen, like anything new, AI is going through a hype cycle, right? If you open LinkedIn, everybody is an AI expert, and AI in some formats has existed for 20, 30 years. What has changed is the language of AI, right? So we now can speak to the machine learning in English or in Arabic instead of speaking in the language of the computers. Right. So if we take the hype cycle away, yes, we are starting to embed AI. We break down AI into 4 buckets. So AI for tech, AI for colleagues, AI for customers, and AI for operations. Okay. And so far, I think we are most advanced with AI for tech, where we are testing, coding, using more AI methodology. We have started using some AI for operations by automating processes. And we are doing some cool stuff for customers as well, which is soon to be announced as well.
Oh, that's amazing. I'd love to hear all about that later.
Sure.
And what are your thoughts on generative AI and how is Rakbank embedding that into the operations?
Yeah, so it clearly has a significant productivity gain. We have Microsoft Copilot, which is now with us. I used to interview a lot of people. I used to take interview notes. Now I click a button and I get ready-made interview notes. So that's great productivity. A very simple thing, not very cool and sexy, but it's there. But generative AI, we are more and more using, as I said, for those 4 buckets that we just talked about, and slowly and gradually doing it. We also have to focus on ethics. We have to focus on transparency and trust, because those are very important for our customers and stakeholders. So yes, we are using it, but we are also very cautious to make sure that it's doing the right thing by our customers.
All right, great. Let's begin our 15 minutes,
Sure.
Starting with your morning routine. Could you walk us through your typical morning routine from the time you wake up to how you prepare yourself for the day ahead?
Sure. So my mother said when I was young, she used to say, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I don't know whether it made me healthy, but hopefully a little bit wiser. So I get up early. I get up around 6. I try to spend over a cup of coffee 30 minutes reflecting on the day ahead. Looking at my schedule, looking at what I think are the most important things to do. And then do a bit of reading, figure out what's happening in the world while I was sleeping.
Nice.
Especially with the US these days, there's so much happening in a day that you have to know what's
Right.
going on. And then come to work, right? And typically we start meetings at 8:30 or 9 here.
Okay. What time do you get to the office?
Between 8:30,
Okay.
typically. Yeah.
Is there one non-negotiable habit that anchors your morning, no matter where you're at?
So I think my sleep cycle. So no matter whether I sleep at 3 or 2 or 10 or 9, I typically will get up at 6. So I think that's a reasonable non-negotiable, and also just a little bit of the prep. So 30 minutes of reflection time in the morning, I think helps me to prepare for the day ahead. Because once you are here, it's like a roller coaster; it never stops.
Yeah, it makes sense for a grounded leader like you that you start your day with reflection. Moving to your career, was there a key moment in your life that changed your career path? Can you tell us about that experience?
Sure. So two come to mind. So the first one, so I started young. I graduated and went straight. I think I graduated on Friday, and Monday morning I was working for Citibank. They didn't give me any time. And from there, I think the first 18, 20 years were very rapid career focused. And I think in 2012, when my eldest daughter went to university, I realized that I had missed her childhood. And I think that was a very defining moment for me to say, how am I going to shape the rest of my career? And I think that's where work life balance, family time versus bank time, making reasonable trade offs on my professional growth. I was the youngest management committee member at Standard Chartered Consumer Bank
Wow.
globally. And I just stopped the rat race from there, and I said I'll make decisions which fit the family and the work life both together. So I think that was very, very defining. The second defining moment was during COVID, when we were all sitting at home and reflecting on where life is taking us. And I think that's when I realized that while I had done 30, 32 years of working for global banks, it was time to go back and sort of rebuild a small company and do something magical with it. And that's when Rakbank opportunity came along, and I'm grateful to the shareholders and the board that they picked me. I most probably work harder than I've worked in the last 20 years, but I feel excited to get out of bed every day,
Yeah.
which is quite exciting.
Amazing. You mentioned you've worked for almost 30 to 32 years now.
Yeah.
And I also know that you've worked across different continents, managing various teams across different banks. And now you're in the UAE with Rakbank. So, in your opinion, what is the most underrated skill that has helped you advance in your career?
So I would say two things. One is curiosity. So, I think a lot of people don't ask why we do things the way we do them enough times, and don't challenge them enough. So I think curiosity is one. Second is this perpetual, and I say this to my team all the time. I said, listen, I always have this fear that I will become redundant for the role I'm doing if I'm not a continuous student and I'm not a continuous learner, right? So you can sit many times when people become senior, they assume that they know everything, and I think that's a very dangerous thing. So I think that curiosity and this quest for knowledge and the quest for continuing to learn, having the humility to go and sit with a 21-year-old young graduate and say, tell me a bit more about how AI works, has to be there in a senior leader, right? And I think that has helped me quite a lot in my career. It
That's
still does.
amazing. Yeah. So being inquisitive, right,
Yeah.
as a leader or as an employee is one of the most underrated skills. How do you coach your team to develop it, to be inquisitive at the workplace?
Yeah, so I think we are, and that is one of hopefully one of the reasons of success is this infectious culture of what I call entrepreneurialism, right? So entrepreneurs you have seen a lot, right? People are forming companies, starting up. How do you bring that same spirit in a corporate environment where you still feel that you can be very entrepreneurial, right? And we inculcate that, we collaborate. We have a very simple ways of working philosophy. It's called 4 C's. So it's connect, communicate, collaborate, and celebrate, right?
Okay.
And a lot of it is about connecting dots, right? Lots of great things are happening in the bank. As the bank becomes bigger, how do we remain agile and nimble that people can connect dots from different parts of the bank and create something that doesn't exist today? So I think that is one. And the second is this notion of what are you doing that nobody has done before? It's very easy to be Me Too and copy companies from other parts of the world or from the UAE. But how do we create disruption that has not been done before?
I mean, clearly, by the way Rakbank is moving forward, I can tell that it's looking great, and for Russell Khaima and the Rakbank itself. Anyway, it's time to shake things up, Raheel. For our listeners, if you're new here, this is our Wheel of Questions, a spontaneous segment covering everything from leisure to management style to life beyond the job. Whatever question the pointer lands on, that's where the conversation goes. Are you ready, Raheel?
I'm ready. Thank you.
Would you mind giving our Wheel of Questions a spin?
Okay.
All right, you've landed on question number 4, and that is okay, this is an interesting one. If you were interviewing someone for a job at your company, what would be your top green and red flags?
Ooh, okay. So red flags very clear, right? So I hate the I disease, right? So the more times you use I instead of we or us, the more it tells me that you are not a team player, not a collaborator, and most probably not the right fit culturally for the bank that we run.
Right.
I think that is one. Second is integrity and honesty, right? You get people who you ask them a question, if they don't know the answer, they tell you they don't know the answer. They're people who try to make things up.
Right.
If you make things up, that's a big red flag for me because nobody expects perfect answers in interviews. From a green perspective, I think, as I said before, collaboration, curiosity, the ability to think out of the box, I think are top green signals for me.
Amazing. Okay. All right. Time to spin the wheel again, Raheel.
Okay.
Yeah, this is an interesting one again. Could you tell us about a time you failed? How did you recover and what did you learn?
So failure is a very strong word, but you reflect and you learn and you course correct on the way, right? I mean, if you're not course correcting all the time, then you're not driving the best behavior. I mean, execution eats strategy for lunch or breakfast or whatever they say. So I think even within Rakbank, we started on a very ambitious transformation in 2022. We did a strategy refresh, and I think over every year or so, we sit down as a management team and we reflect and we focus a lot of time on what's not gone well or as well as we'd like it to be. And I think, for example, when we did the strategy transformation, we realized that while we had made a lot of progress, we were not making as much cultural transformation that we wanted to make. The communication, making sure that the strategy is living, breathing with every employee, every colleague at the most junior levels was not working. So then we sort of, took stock of that. We did a lot of deep understanding of why colleagues were not, it was not resonating with the colleagues. And when we completely rehashed our communication strategy and how we do two-way interactive communication, how we focus on, we have 5 generations of colleagues working in this company. Right, so one size fits all doesn't also work. Somebody who's in baby boomer consumes information very differently to a Gen Z. So how do we then customize and all of that? So I think that's been a good learning for us. We have made a lot of changes, and it's starting to show in our colleague engagement results now.
Amazing. So there's been a shift in the organizational culture itself.
Yeah, so I think shift in organization culture was very much a big part of the strategy.
Okay.
Right? So as we did, it was digitization, automation, actually data analytics, which everybody is doing, so nothing new there. But a lot of the emphasis was on cultural transformation, diversity of thinking, diversity of opinions, killing the bureaucracy,
right,
and putting the customer in front of everybody's mind, front and center.
Awesome. We can spin the wheel again.
I'm going to do a slow one this time so that you don't have to wait too much.
Okay. If you were not in your current role, what would you be doing instead?
Yeah, so that's an easy one. So I would have been, and I think I still will be, a teacher or an academic when I'm done with banking. Both my parents were professors, so I grew up on university campuses around the world. And it's just been something that I'm very passionate about. So people ask me, what will you do when you retire? I said, I'll go back to university. I'll most probably do 2 degrees in fields that I don't know about, and then I'll see what I can do going back in academics.
That's
So
amazing.
that's always been a passion.
I'd love to be in a classroom with you. I think the learnings are
That's
going to
very
be
humbling.
amazing. What skill from banking would transfer surprisingly well to teaching?
I don't think it's specific to banking, but I think it's the ability on how you connect with people and how you personalize, how you impart information and learning, right? And different people have different curiosity zones and different points of excitement and engagement. And I think as a leader in a bank, you have to focus a lot on that. And I think that's a very transferable skill on assessing, understanding an individual's motivation or a team's motivation, and then customizing your approach to fit how you get maximum motivation and maximum enablement from them.
Amazing. Time to give the wheel another spin.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite book, podcast, TV show, or hobby? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So my favorite book is "Who Moved My Cheese" by Spencer Johnson. It's an old book. It was written in 1998, but it's a lot about change and four interesting mice who go and eat cheese and how they figure out how change is done. So that's a pretty I've reflected a lot. It's a fable. So I've reflected a lot on it, and I recommend it to a lot of people because the world around us is changing continuously, and some people are just buried in their existing world and don't see the change coming. So have to help them motivate. It helps me as well. From a podcast perspective, Simon Sinek is one person that I listen to a lot. I love his infinite games versus finite game theory, which I quite enjoy, and I quite relay that because I think we are all in infinite games, right? So there's no short-term loser winner as you see in finite games. So yeah, Simon Sinek is somebody I listen to a lot. I used to read a lot, but I think over the last 10 years, I've shifted now to podcasts and TED Talks more. That gives me the freedom to, be in a car and reflecting and sort of having more bite-sized information
Right.
on topics. So yeah, much more of that now.
Great. Can we do one last spin before we move on to the next segment? What's the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
So at Barclays, when I was there, I had a board member, John Timpson. If you've been to London, Timpson's ski cutting is almost on every tube station. He's a phenomenal business leader. And he has this philosophy of on leadership, and he talks about the job of the leader is to make a big company feel like a small company, right? And I think that's the best piece of advice I've gone, right? Because it really goes to the heart of the culture that we're trying to build here, right? Why is it that small companies, startups have a much more thriving culture than big companies? I think is because that curiosity, that speed, that energy we lose as we grow bigger with a lot of governance, a lot of policies, a lot of bureaucracy. So making a big company feel like a small company is the best advice I've ever got.
Amazing. My last question for you in this segment: who outside the business world do you admire the most?
So it'll sound cliched, but I came to this country in 1993 as a young graduate in Abu Dhabi. And after 6 months, I told my supervisor to say, listen, I'm not learning anything. I want to go away. And they moved me to London. Since then, I've been back here. This is my fourth time back, right? And I think, and I've lived and worked across the world, from China to Zimbabwe, Asia, Europe, Africa, Middle East. I think what the leadership of this country has done and what they have created, because naturally I was not there before that, but even from 1993 to the journey of what we have seen now,
Yeah.
the last 30 years at least I have witnessed as well. it's just phenomenal, right? I have not seen this type of leadership, this type of focus anywhere in the world. So for me, that's and I say this to a lot of the hundreds of Emirati colleagues I have, is to say you don't have to really go outside to get inspiration. You just have to reflect on what your leaders have done for you, and if you can just be inspired by that, then the world is your playground. So I think that really, really resonates with me, and I always reflect and say how they have done it, and what has got them here. But it's a non-stop thing, right? So now you focus on the vision for the 2030 or vision for the 2050, and you just see how that energy and the focus and the innovation is still as raw and as fresh as it was 30 years ago, which is very difficult to sustain. There's lots of countries or lot of places or lot of people who have done it once, but to do it twice,
Again.
thrice continuously, keep doing it is truly amazing.
Before we wrap up, I want to bring the conversation back to the RAC in Rakbank. What legacy do you hope Rakbank and your own leadership will leave for the next generation of innovators in Ras Al Khaimah, the UAE, and beyond?
Sure. So, as we say, Rakbank, for Rakbank, first of all, we are going to celebrate our 50 years next year. So we're really excited to be part of the Ras Al Khaimah story. This bank, as you mentioned, was formed in 1976 and has done some phenomenal things here. I think, as we say, rooted in Ras Al Khaimah and rising with the nation, right? I want the legacy I want to leave behind. One is a bank or a company that supports innovation, growth, creativity, and constant dynamism for all the residents, all the nationals of Ras Al Khaimah, which is our home emirate, and we feel very passionate about it. And we see all the excitement of things happening there, but across the nation and hopefully beyond. And being the bank that helps dreamers' dreams comes true, helps creative persons' ideas come true. And that's why we are called the SME bank. We are typically the first bank that gives you your first loan as an entrepreneur. And we have been very blessed to have financed 20, 30,000 SMEs here. And we have seen some of those companies grow from a small idea where they needed a little bit of cash to now being very formidable companies. And I think if we can continue to do that, we will inspire a whole new generation of creativity, enthusiasm, and entrepreneurship in the country and in Ras Al Khaimah in particular.
So Rakbank in 1976 started as a community lender in Ras Al Khaimah and now one of the biggest brands in the UAE. We're so excited for you, Raheel, and for Rakbank. Thank you so much for joining us on C-Suite Talks.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for joining us on C-Suite Talks, where we bring global and local insights from the heart of Ras Al Khaimah to the world.
Be sure to follow, share, and tune in next time for another 15-minute conversation about what it really takes to lead.